Some other ones have been like, at least after the fact, lots of people. Hello, anyone who is there right now. That's Alex.
That's me
Woo-hoo.
with Jules.
With Jules. I was contemplating, should I put Jules as my name? I'm trying to switch up my name.
Yeah.
That I write every time.
Yeah.
So earlier today it was JT China.
Mm.
So I
Going
went
for the handle kind of look.
Yeah, that's what I went with today.
I went full name. Now I kind of regret going full name.
Sorry, I'm thinking of a joke, but I'm not going to tell
it. Feels very staunch. I'm going to change it right now.
Can you?
Yeah.
You could.
Oh, there's like a little ellipsis thing in the bottom left-hand corner next to the preview of my face, and it gives me options to
Ooh, look at that.
Change my name.
Check it out. Okay, cool. Good to know.
There you go.
So I think there are a couple of people are logging on just to see our little faces. We're hanging out tonight, and it's been a while. I'm looking forward to some Alex time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it has been a while.
How has married life been treating you?
Man, people love that question. It's really not fundamentally different. I don't know.
That's fair.
We were already living together. I think that's maybe what it is. It's like a legacy question from when married life would have been like a big change. But now it was like we were already living in the house. We already had the house. So now it's just like doing more renovations and more sour looks from Joel that my name, everyone's not calling me Mrs. Fader. That's what's different.
Oh, gosh. Well, that's okay. That's good.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So what kind of renovations are you doing? I didn't know you were doing anything.
Oh, yeah. We took a bold step. I painted my guest bedroom orange.
Wow. And so light orange, dark, bright orange.
The color is called pumpkin spice. It's an orange that's like not messing around. So
like if you wake up in that room, you'll be angry.
I want it to feel cozy. I want it to feel like you're in a safe, if a campfire was not going to burn you alive, but was rather just like a cozy campfire blanket. That's what I want it to feel like.
I see.
It's my vision for this orange room that I've created.
Well, you're gonna have to do a survey for anyone who sleeps in there in the morning.
Yeah.
Do you mind providing an answer to the survey? It'll only take 3 minutes.
Right now, they would be deeply uncomfortable because there's a bed frame that does not have a mattress.
Oh, that would be really uncomfortable.
Unless they're like you and they bring multiple air mattresses to a sleepover at someone's house.
Yeah. Well, somebody's got to be prepared.
And it was not the host, so kudos to you.
You were prepared in other ways, just not well. You had the bedding.
I did. That's true. The bedding, but no beds.
Yeah.
Limited beds. Limited beds.
You did have beds.
That's true.
Yeah. So I guess it's about 7:00 anyway, and we're kind of already socialized. And so I'm just going to kind of give us a little introduction. Thank you to anyone who's watching today, anyone who joins. Alex and I are good friends. We started off as colleagues. We're really, really good friends. And it's been a while. With COVID, I feel like it's just too easy to kind of get on a self-isolation autopilot and kind of stay in that mode. And yeah, I've been craving some, adult time. And also I'm missing like the vibrant and meaningful, thoughtful, thought-provoking conversations. And I thought, I'm sure other people are too, so why not share them?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
no, I miss that too. And just to clarify, by adult time, you mean time with another adult.
Time with another adult.
Not adult time.
That's fine. That's fair. That is a good distinction. But I'm bad with that. The other day I was on a live stream for work. And OMG, I think it was a live stream because I couldn't take it back. And it was, I don't know, I kept saying the word box over and over again. Like, it was just bad.
In what context, out of curiosity, were you saying the word box over and over?
I was something about like free thinking, but the way that I was saying it, every way I said it came out wrong. It was like, it was bad. Like, I don't remember exactly.
I'll have to look that one up.
It Yeah, it might be worth it. It'll be bloopers one day if and when I'm actually, I've got an audience.
Juliana can't get out of her own box.
Yeah, yeah. And it was like that kind of stuff. It was like, she doesn't want you in her box. And like it was just wrong over and over. So I just was like, okay, moving on, moving on.
That's wonderful.
Drop this word. But I don't know, whatever. That's kind of classic me. I say things. So cheers to Friday night.
Cheers.
Great friends and great conversation and smart conversation.
Cheers. And isolating a little less. In a safe way.
It's almost like a dessert.
It is. I find Bailey's on the rocks is like good every once in a while. I do find it quite rich, but it's a nice one.
It is rich. But so am I. Okay. All right. Okay, so you and I we're not super close in age. We studied very different things. Didn't we? I don't know,
I think actually. So. I thought you did some women's studies, didn't you?
I don't think so. Like I studied, really. I studied literature written by feminists.
Ah, that's right. Okay.
But I never really like studied feminist theory or anything really dedicated in that way. And so it's so interesting to me because I think that it is so easy generally to assume that, I don't know, to hear a title about somebody. So you've studied, it's Sexuality Studies, I discovered today because I checked out your profile on LinkedIn.
It is, yes.
And I don't know, I think a lot of people will make assumptions about that. And yes, you're like, yes, this is my life. That happens a lot. Yeah. And I don't know, I think you're, if there are any stereotypes, I don't think they fit you. I think you, I don't know. I don't even know what to say. You are you. And I really appreciate it because I don't really have that perspective, that formal education perspective in my life from women's studies and sexuality studies. So honestly, the first question I have is, what is sexuality studies?
Yeah, it's definitely a very unique program. When I was looking for the university program that I wanted to pursue, there were really only two schools that offered anything like it. One was Carleton University in Ottawa, where you could minor in sexuality studies. And the other was York University, where I went. And it was a major program that you could actually 4 years, like honors degree, which is what I eventually graduated with. I also did a concurrent certificate in gender and women's studies. And it was really a really unique program. I got the opportunity to learn about law. I got, the opportunity to learn about philosophy, history, socioeconomic issues that, all sort of intersected with gender and women's issues. I took this really interesting class on the built environment. So like how we build cities and houses and how that can have an effect on how we perceive other people. So for example, differently abled people can be perceived as, either welcome in a space or as sort of a burden in a space, depending on people's perceptions, yes, but then also how that space was actually built. Because if it's built with those people in mind, then, they'll feel welcome and they're not, not being perceived as getting in anyone's way, as an example. And so those were all things that you wouldn't necessarily think of when you hear the phrase sexuality studies. But a lot of that, including things like, the critical theory, like the actual feminist theory and history there as well. But it was a really interesting program. And I don't think that it was what people would expect on its face when they hear that word.
I did a little bit of research, not a lot, but a little bit.
Tell me things.
And just that interdisciplinary piece really stood out for me because specifically in the York program, I'm not sure how other schools handle this subject, but I just find that a lot of subjects, a lot of disciplines sort of live in their lane. And I think that sort of shortchanges them because the lessons that engineers have figured out about problem solving probably could lend a lot of value to social issues. But you often don't have that merging of ideology and that cross-referencing,
yeah.
process and that sort of thing. So I really like that it's interdisciplinary. I think there are even a couple of PhD programs in interdisciplinary studies, which is awesome and funny because if you're like, yes, I'm a doctor of what? Everything, you know? What do you say? A little
Yeah.
bit of this, a little bit of that, you know? But I do actually think it's critical, and I think our education systems are, um, the way that we work, just the way that we interact. I think it all we need to start stripping down some of the walls so that we can,
Yeah.
you know, bridge the gaps a little bit. They don't it doesn't have to be the gaps that we have today, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. I mean, like I can think of some programs that probably benefit just from the volume of information that you're learning and being a little more, having a bit more of that tunnel vision, something like an engineering focus, like even just, talking to people that went to York with me. A lot of people going for a particular program enjoy the fact that, it's a single lane that you pick. You would rather not have these sort of general education courses. Like if you're in some kind of engineering program where there's like a huge volume of work that's being thrown at you already. And then you have to throw on, a philosophy course that you don't really care about or something like that. That can be frustrating. But in general, as a principal, I definitely agree that it's better to have a broad education in a lot of ways because, like you mentioned, you can learn things from other disciplines.
Yeah. It's I know that in what is it called? Is it a it's not a curriculum framework. I can't remember, but there's like
Oh,
this
yeah. I was
oh
going to
I,
say the synopsis. That's not what it is.
yeah, I can't remember the exact word right now, but essentially if you kind of look at across whether it's
Syllabus?
business
Is that what you mean?
no,
No.
no, is it maybe it's a competency framework? I'm not sure if
Mm.
that's the exact title because I know that is from the like adult learning world. I'm not sure if that's used in the academic world as well. But if you look at the definitions of competency at each of the levels, like let's say BA, honors BA, masters, and there actually are a number of sub degrees in there as well, or diplomas and certificates and such. The words breadth and depth of knowledge are used a lot. And I do think, to your point, uh, about the fact that you do kind of need to specialize, and you, in some ways, you need to be in your lane. I think there are certain things you cannot exercise if you don't dig deep. So I do think you need to dig deep, but
Mhm.
I think you can start broad, and I think you can cross lanes. And we're doing that more and more. This is not a scenario
Yeah.
anymore where anyone's working for 40 years in the same job. And I know I'm doing something very different professionally than what I studied. So
Yeah, or even using the same skill set for like the majority of your lifetime as an example.
yeah, yeah, but it's also interesting because I think I am using a similar skill set. And the skill set for me is effective communications. Can I
Mm.
say what I mean? Have it land the way I intended? Or is life just going to be a game of broken telephone? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's true. But I also think that you, like personally, and the time that I've known you, you've also grown and developed other skills. You've decided to sort of take these pathways with your own personal development that have been a part of the circumstances you've been in, but have also been a part of the deliberate choices that you've made, just in terms of how you're going to conduct yourself in the world. And so I think it is the same, like a similar skill set in terms of you want to center on that communications piece, but then
Yeah.
at the same time, you've also allowed yourself to grow in other ways.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. I am definitely curious. I don't want to just live in my own world and hear my own voice forever. you know.
That's why
It's a
we're
good
here.
thing. All right. So, I'm just going to jump into this one thing that's been bothering me.
Oh
Have you
yeah.
heard about this Penguin Random House thing?
No, tell
No?
me.
Okay. So Penguin Random House is a
The
Canadian publisher.
publisher, yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if they published
Peterson?
Jordan Peterson's first book, but they're publishing his second one. And the staff are like up in arms. They had apparently a very emotional town hall type meeting, um, and they don't want the book published. And I understand that their opinion is, we've done so much this year emphasizing equality and inclusion and all of this stuff that we've done to make the world a better place, and now we want to publish Jordan Peterson's book, you know? I'm not going to say anything more. I'm just gonna right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. How does that sit at first? Like, at first, you didn't hear about this at all?
No, I legitimately have not heard about this. I spent the last 2 hours watching a documentary on Ruth Bader Ginsburg, so I've been busy with other
Talk
things.
about in your lane.
Yeah, right. Like,
no, fair enough.
What do I want to come here to talk about?
Yeah, seriously, right? That's okay. I get that. But yeah, yeah. How does it sit with you? What are your thoughts about that?
I have some conflicting thoughts. I mean, there's a trend that's happening that isn't necessarily bad right now, but I wonder how it will continue in the future of platforms and businesses that have defined themselves as either people who publish or like host content being able to be the arbiters of what gets published and defined as, broadcastable content. Like obviously a publishing house has always been in control of what they choose to publish.
Sure.
There might have been an idea at some point that it was based on merit, but I don't necessarily believe that that's true. So for them to, pick an ideology and become sort of political, or at least like deliberately picking a political sort of lean in this case. I think they're within their right not to publish it. They're not the only publisher in the world. Like Jordan Peterson can get published by other companies. If he got published, if it wasn't them who published his first book, he can probably find a different publisher with his literary agent. Or at the very least, it's 2020, he can publish it online and people will read it because it's by Jordan Peterson. And so at the same time, I don't necessarily think that everyone deserves to get published. I feel, like I have a happy spark every time I hear that Twitter has like banned some tweet of Trump's because it's got misleading information in it. And I deeply appreciate the media taking a stand about misinformation, even if it took much longer than it probably should have for that to start happening. But yeah, so I don't know, some kind of conflict, some opinion in between those two thoughts is where I am with that.
Yeah, fair enough. I totally respect what you're saying that, publishing houses can and do choose what they're going to publish. But there are, I was going to say, certain publications have a political leaning.
Yeah.
And so, that in order to be published with that publisher or in that paper or whatever, that you've got to align. I guess I didn't really think about book publishers that way. But it does trouble me. I have to admit that it really troubles me that people who work in publishing of all fields would stand in the way of anything being published. Don't get me wrong, like and I'm going to go extreme here, should Mein Kampf have been published? Probably not. But
going right to Hitler.
but at the same time, like I'm pretty sure every single regime that went down the very bad path of I don't know, just self-destruction. One of the key tenets was controlling what's published. So
that's true. But I don't think not publishing Jordan Peterson is equivalent to fascism. And I know that's not what you were trying to say, but I just want to draw that line, like that distinction there. Jordan Peterson does not have a right to be published. Like, I don't think that's true. I think we in general have a right to free speech, but I think a private company in this case, probably the legal precedent would be that they have the right to choose who does and does not get published. Like if I sent out a manuscript today, it would probably sit on the slush pile for the next 20 years. And I wouldn't be able to say that they were blocking my right to free speech because my book is a piece of crap. So
that's fair. Absolutely. That's totally fair. I don't think I'm not thinking about his free speech here.
Right.
I'm just thinking about how do you choose what gets published and what doesn't? And if it's a matter of agreement, like I work most of my time I spend on marketing. And if marketing is very personal, everyone feels very strongly about their favorite colors and their favorite fonts and the way things are laid out. It's very, very personal.
Oh my God, fuck papyrus.
But if I make choices and attach myself to a preference, I might as well like get really depressed and sit in a hole somewhere because I can't possibly win. There's not there are many opinions and many feelings and many experiences for a reason.
Yeah, like as the marketer, you can't put that onto your clients, right?
Yeah, and I can't put it on me or I'll be miserable, right? When every time somebody has a different opinion than mine, or when they say something that is outright insulting to something I've produced, it's just preference.
Well, yeah, and we might be doing ourselves a disservice in the long term by not publishing the things that Jordan Peterson writes, because I think, at least in the, whatever Reddit echo chamber that I subscribe to, I think he's pretty widely accepted at this point to not really make that much sense. And so if we just let him get published, more people have the opportunity to see that and to learn that about him.
So yeah, totally. That's really interesting. I think there are some things that I read much of, not all of 12 Rules for Life or whatever it was called.
8 Simple Rules for Dating My Teenage Daughter.
Could have been called that maybe. And there were some things that, like, he talks about like primitive evolution, and the book starts off talking about lobsters. So that seemed a little odd, But a lot of his arguments, even if I don't agree with them, I can see where his arguments can be academically sound. And a lot of his arguments, I'm not sure I would be able to put up a good argument against, So I don't know. I think, to your point, if you don't put it out there, people can't decide where they stand. I think the greatest threat is people not understanding. I saw this very funny but disturbing clip of I can't remember the show. It was one of those political shows, and this guy went out into a crowd in the U.S. It was a Trump rally, and he was asking folks for their opinions about various things, and they were all so poorly informed. And that's what the comedy was.
Was it like a sort of gingery dude, like curly hair and like a green overcoat? Who was the guy doing the interviews? Oh, man, his stuff is hilarious.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to try. And I'm
probably the same idea, though.
Yeah, probably. I'm sure if you go into a Democratic crowd, you can probably also find people that are hilarious and don't have all of their facts right. So it's more of an exercise of just what kind of, how deep do we really know the things we know?
Well, yeah.
But it's, I don't know. It's interesting stuff. We got a comment.
We did?
Yeah, we did.
Oh my God.
Okay, so let's see. I'm gonna put it on screen here. This is actually
who's this guy? Oh my God.
The issue with the Peterson thing is that the employees at the publishing house are trying to shut down the book. The employees don't agree with the content, and they're making a fuss. Yeah, so I think that is ultimately the point, right? Like, just because you don't agree doesn't make an idea not worth being heard.
That's true to an extent. I'll challenge that idea a little bit, because we are living in a time where we are well aware that the majority, I'll say this not really having evidence to back this statement up, but the majority of people get their news online from algorithms that are effectively showing you content that you have already tacitly agreed to view by viewing something else that was related. And so basically getting yourself into a loop of information. Knowing that to be the case, I would argue that it becomes more dangerous to publish certain ideas, knowing that groups of extremists would latch onto it because they have a limited source. Like, there's no Walter Cronkite, there's no like news anchor at the desk who's one trusted, reputable source giving you like a good chunk of the information, not necessarily all of it, but we just don't have that anymore. And so because of that, I do think in some contexts, publishing Jordan Peterson, or not necessarily him, but an author with any extreme views, could be more dangerous than it would be in other contexts. And so that's my response to Mike.
Yeah, fair enough. There's the other side of the argument that it was probably a real win that this publishing house got that book. This is probably going to pay most of their salaries this year.
Yeah.
And, without this book, would some people lose their jobs even? It's a really tricky situation. But I do think it's interesting that, there are things that matter just because they intrinsically matter. And then there's survival, So we're very lucky to live in a world where we have the luxury of standing by our values and not always having to just choose what's going to get us by, even if it is morally compromising.
Well, yeah. And isn't that, I mean, as someone who has been both an employer and an employee, isn't that the kind of place that you would want to work, where all of your employees are like rallying together around this idea that they have about the place that they want to work and the ideas that they stand behind? Like, I would think that that would be a place where people have passion, they care about the work that they're doing, like people who might know the stakes, like in terms of the revenue that they would be getting and would still be willing to put that on the line. Yeah. I would think that that would be, a good chunk of the information that you would need to sort of make a judgment on the situation.
Yeah, for sure. And I did not see any clips of this town hall or anything like that, but
yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I'm sure it would be very interesting. But I think there's a really good point there around engagement. The fact that they care so much, that's a really great thing. So then what do you do with that? So a little
bit of it. Tell them no. We're doing it for the money.
We're doing it for the money. Do everything else.
Got into publishing for all the money you make.
Yes, said no one ever. Okay, so a bit of a digression, but thank you for going down that little bit of a rabbit hole with me, because I just find that particular news story right now kind of interesting. All right, women's issues. I think.
Let's go.
Yeah, I think. Would you say that the Me Too movement is what made all of the mainstream diversity, inclusion, minority, all of this stuff? Do you think that that's what sort of paved the way for us being able to talk so openly now? Like, I think things have changed in the last year even. And the Me Too movement was, I think, a huge, I don't know, we came over some kind of
catalyst there. Almost.
Yeah, I wonder if there's any relationship there.
Yeah, I think it's a part of that. I think that social movements probably build off each other too much and have too much history for me to definitively say like it was the Me Too movement that started any of this. I think like a lot of Black Lives Matter activists would have a word or two to say to me if I claimed that to be the case. Yeah. But I definitely think that it was a catalyst for a lot of people in a lot of ways. Like obviously the Pussy March on Washington with the Pussy Hats, and the Women's March, not the Pussy March. The Me Too movement. Obviously, like I've been following Harvey Weinstein's trial, everything going on with R. Kelly, watching the documentary that came out about him as well. And I actually even had a friend to me say. She meant it as a compliment, but the way it came out was really perverse. Something like, "Alex, you're really up on sexual predators," or something like that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. I think. Thanks for that.
I need to check myself.
Yeah, putting my life in pretty stark perspective.
Yeah, right. Perspective is huge. So,
but yeah, no, I like Me Too has done a lot, I think, for a lot of women, and honestly for men too as well. I think during the Me Too movement, Brendan Fraser came out about his sexual assault story with a producer in Hollywood. Terry Crews came out with his story, and they were both met with pretty widespread support. I think it's important that the Me Too movement isn't, we don't recognize that as just being for women. It's really for everybody that's experienced sexual assault or rape.
Yeah, and maybe that's why I'm making this connection. I just feel, I feel like a bunch of people who were quiet, silent, didn't feel like they could speak up, did.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's not even a ripple effect, more like an avalanche, and not all at once. I think there's been a bit of an ebb and flow, but. Definitely. I think we are definitely talking about diversity, inclusion, not putting anyone down more than we've ever talked about these issues. And they're far more accepted now than ever.
At least in our lifetime, for sure.
Yeah, that's fair. Do you think there was a time before us where women or minorities were more empowered than they are today?
I
I don't know enough about the history. I would just assume not.
Yeah, maybe not like more empowered to like in the workplace or in social life, but well, like obviously going back to like civil rights for people of color and also for women, 1960s, 1970s were just like huge for protests, huge for feminism, huge for like the conversations about diversity and inclusion and equal pay for equal work, and really, and like it takes time, and it, like you said, it ebbs and flows. But this is a project, I think, for a lot of people that have, if you talk to someone that lived through this era and that one, I think that they would say it's an ongoing, lifelong project, and it just falls in and out of the zeitgeist every now and again. But there are always people in the background that are constantly working on these issues and trying to make those moments of pivotal change possible for the rest of the society.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, I'm going to ask you what is like a small question for people who don't know anything about this, and maybe an overwhelming question given what you do and what you care about.
Don't ask me what feminism is.
Well, I actually want to know how do you define feminism for yourself? Because I think it is a very personal thing.
How did I know?
Yeah, you did know. But I think that it's misunderstood, and I hate titles for this reason, because as soon as you discover someone's point of view that is really poignant for you, and that usually happens when you disagree with somebody, you then brush everyone with the same, or paint everyone with the same brush.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I'm what does it mean to you? It doesn't have to be a formal definition. Just what does it mean to you?
I love the formal definition. I'll give it to you straight, because I think personally it's a very simple issue that gets blown out of proportion. And so I think the definition of feminism for me is the sociopolitical and legal equality of any gender, any race, anybody.
Yeah,
anybody. That's what feminism is. It's important to be intersectional in your definition. It's important to have anti-racist, anti-oppressive, perspectives when you're building a space. All of that is very important. But I think the core definition of feminism is about equitable treatment on the basis of socio-political and legal frameworks. And I don't think it needs to be more complicated than that.
No, I appreciate that very much, and I really like that you put. I don't have all the language. You have the language. So I'm glad someone on this that intersectional. You said
yes,
that
yeah.
Intersectional definition. I think that that's critical, because I always, well, not always, but in my university years, I was taught that feminism was about getting a seat at the table and ultimately having a voice, and that made very, very much sense to me, because you can put a woman at a table, but it's still not a representative table. It's not a representative table until you have everyone represented, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, there's this like online comic that I think depicts it in a really clear way, the differences between equality, equity, and there's something else I can't remember. But equality is, like there's a tree, and one side of the tree has apples on it and the other has some, but they're like way at the top and they're hard to reach. Equality would be giving both people a ladder. Okay, fine, you both have ladders now, but there's still apples that are way up, like higher than I can reach them, as an example. Equity is seeing that people have different positionalities in society and saying, okay, well, this person needs a ladder this tall, and this person needs a ladder this tall. And in that way, they can both achieve where they need to be, and, with these tools that we're going to give them, having examined their positions in a more fulsome way. And so it's not like you're saying, it's not just about a seat at the table. It's about how do we build people up? Where are people coming from? Where is everybody's starting line at this race? And how can we make sure that everyone, fundamentally, when we get there, are all realistically starting from the same place instead of such vastly different positionalities? And how do we help them, get to the finish line?
We've got another comment here I'm going to share on screen. So a couple of comments from this.
Here's where I get blown up for my definition of feminism.
Well, thank you for the comments. That I always thought it.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I shouldn't be so negative. Thank you.
but I actually think that's a great distinction. I think that's where feminism began. Is that fair?
Yes. So feminism really began, I think the first wave is in academia, at least, is sort of defined by Betty Friedan and the feminine mystique and the sort of like the plight of the 1950s housewife. Like I'm feeling this ennui that I can't name. And it's a result of not feeling purposeful in my life because society has decided that my job is to be a good wife and to keep a house and to have children. And I can't achieve any other dreams beyond those. It didn't really have a place for women of color. It didn't have a place for, any other positionalities like marginalized women, poor women, it was very specific to the lifestyle that Betty Friedan had. And so the second wave of feminism, moving beyond that, was more about, representation, equal pay for equal work. Like, let's have a seat at the table. Let's, treat us like equals. Whereas I think, potentially that comment is coming from, because at different points feminism has been about different things. It definitely evolves as time goes on, and now we're into like there's third wave feminism, fourth wave feminism. You can find Wikipedia articles on lipstick feminism. There's just like so many different ones. Obviously, like the slut walk is a whole other stream of feminism that we could talk about, but there's a lot of different ways that people have chosen to express it. Some people, I should probably say, are hold up the banner of feminism to be about anti-men and men are scum and men are abortions, and those are things that people who have identified as feminists have said, and so it can be used for evil instead of good, but I try to use it for good.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is part of that intersectional, interdisciplinary approach, right? If there are lessons that we have learned from feminism, and if feminism has been a vehicle for us to achieve certain things, and that's been positive, why wouldn't we extend that thinking, that approach, all of that to other groups that are not finding representation, that are being oppressed in however the experience may be?
Yeah, that's an interesting problem. You would probably know this just, from having lived your life, but there's a lot of, there are people in marginalized groups that don't necessarily have sympathy or empathy for other people that would fall into what is traditionally like a marginalized group. Like you can be racist and be trans. You can be, there's a whole range of things that you can be, and it's not limited to you because you're because you're poor, because you're a person of color, because you're differently abled, whatever the case might be. And it's not to say that like you'll just naturally have empathy for anyone else that is deemed by society to be marginalized.
Yeah, I actually think this is probably, I don't know what I am. I know that I am anti-hypocrisy. I know that if I'm going to stand up for one, then I should stand up for all. That's the part I don't understand. I don't understand standing up for religious freedoms, but then not standing up for, the right of a gay couple to get married. Like, I actually see those things as very equal. If as a religious community you want to say you can't get married because you don't fit within my definition of what marriage should include, then I am in fact negating my own rights as well. I feel like the principles there all have to apply the same. We might interpret things differently and it might play out differently depending on the situation. I don't understand how you can stand up and say, I've been stepped on, I've been hurt, and my solution is to step and hurt on you. I just don't get it.
Yeah.
And not that happens all the time.
No, for sure.
It unfortunately happens sometimes. And that really does bug me.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, what it probably comes down to is not recognizing certain fights as being your fight. Like I don't necessarily, like if I'm not friends with people who are HIV positive, as an example, do I see the fight against discrimination against people who are living with HIV AIDS as being a part of my fight? Because if I believe in freedom, in a particular sense for everybody, then that should be a part of my fight because I don't want people to be discriminated against, like you're saying. But if I don't recognize them as my people, then you won't stand up.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a big challenge as well, because like I sometimes feel guilty. I don't feel guilty about many things because it's true, because I'm going to do what I believe in,
Yeah.
and if I end up embarrassed, if people don't like me because of it, like at least I can look in the mirror and know I did what felt right to me.
Yeah.
Um but if I'm going to stand up for one, I will stand up for the next guy too.
Hmm.
Another couple of comments here. Thank you so much, Mrs. Glenn's Real. I don't know exactly how to pronounce your full handle here, but I've heard that for years, if you're a feminist, you're anti-men or hate men for their position. And in her next comment, she says it's not true, and I appreciate that, because I think um, it's really easy to completely gloss over how men are dealing in this society
Yeah.
right now. But I think, a lot of men are getting kind of a bad rap, who don't necessarily deserve it, because they're in a group that historically contributed to some negativity.
Yeah.
Um,
But just by virtue of being a feminist does not imply in any way that you hate men.
yeah,
Keep fighting the good fight, Miss Glenn.
yeah. Let's I want to know from your perspective, not just, I don't want you to be like the arbiter of all things feminism at all, but what but
I'm
what
not
is
an ambassador.
but what is um as a feminist, what are the issues that are important to you today? What are the things that you're investing in
Oh, can we
or invested in?
can I talk about something positive really quickly?
Yeah,
Like just on
please.
that, things that
Yeah.
concern me, but in a positive way. There
Mm.
are 100 women in the House of Commons in Canada right now for the first time.
Hmm. That's pretty.
That's
I
cool,
like
right?
that.
Right?
Awesome.
It's a good
Yeah,
day.
that is a good
That
day.
just happened on like Tuesday, I
I
think.
did not hear that. That's really cool.
Two women just got added, and so now there's an even hundo.
Yeah, that's very cool.
One bill.
Yeah, exactly. We made it to triple digits.
That's right.
Go Canada.
Yeah.
Yay!
So
Aw,
that's something that's cool. That's on my
we're getting
radar.
some love. Thank you so much, Colin.
Yeah, let's go. I'm
Awesome.
sorry, I called her Miss Glenn. It's Mrs. Glenn. Mea culpa.
It's all good. Yeah, that's a really awesome milestone, and
Yeah.
that's like, I don't think that is, I don't think that that's worth. Okay, I'm just gonna say this for a second. I don't think that's worth celebrating on its own, as if it's just like, oh, we hit a different milestone that we've never hit before. It's not like, we hit an extreme high in weather today. Like, you know what I mean? Like, isn't that no news? But the fact is,
That
women
makes
are
me
capable.
so upset.
I know, I know.
I'm like, oh my God, it's equivalent to like record breaking climate change temperatures. There's 100 women in the House of Commons.
But the point that I'm trying to make is that what makes it awesome is that it, like, the merit
Yes.
that, like, proving to be there. I watched a very disturbing political commentary. Just it was that same one. I think it was Noah Trevor. Is that his show?
Trevor Noah.
Noah, thank you. I'm bad with names. Anyway, it was his show that the guy was on the street doing the
Oh,
questions.
okay.
And so he asks this one woman about what she thinks of women in politics. And she says something like, women should not lead countries. Like, she specifically said a woman should not be the president. She said, we're hormonal. She goes, if a woman gets a hot flash, she'll start a war. And and the interviewer guy was, very aptly said, but weren't all wars started by men? And she just was quiet for a while. It was funny,
Yeah.
but I feel like I think that I need to make the distinction that what makes the 100 women in the House of Commons so important today is because of merit,
Yes.
because that women have a lot to offer, and now they have a seat at the table to do it at
Yeah.
a new level. So that's really cool.
It is really cool. I appreciate you making that distinction. I do think it's important. I'm going to butcher this quote, but it's something that Vice President-elect Kamala Harris said recently, which is basically, you can't aspire to be something that you can't see. And so if you don't see women in politics at a particular level, there's that old expression, the higher the fewer. Basically, the higher you go in politics, the fewer women there are going to be. You can't, like, I can't dream of being a member of parliament, a member of the House of Commons, Prime Minister of Canada, Premier, whatever it might be, if I don't see women in that position paving the way and doing it. And that's another part of why it's so important that women are being appointed to be members in the House of Commons.
Yeah, for sure. I think deepen that a little bit because I agree with you, but we all have different positions, and there are people who are there to break the ceiling.
Yeah.
So there are the people who can see themselves in a position even if they have never seen someone there before. And if you are that person, you need to push yourself for the rest, right? Because there are
Yeah.
going to be incredible people who don't have that one skill. So we really do all have a place, no matter what common ground we share and what differences we may have. We all have a purpose, and it plays into the entire, you know, complex thing that is life and progress. So I very much appreciate that comment, and also really want to encourage the women who don't fit the mold and really are the ones to put themselves in the line of fire and hear it all,
Mhm.
because they can, and they can envision it. So that's an incredible quality, um, that I want to see in women too. I want to see them exercise that as well.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you have other celebratory things, or other stuff in general that you're thinking about these days in terms of women's issues?
Man, honestly, the Supreme Court nominations in the United States give me pause. Just in, I'm concerned just with the way politics in the United States seems to have an effect on so many Canadians. Just in the sense that, like, ideas spread very easily from the United States to Canada. There's a lot of people that have been, marching downtown Toronto on the weekends. Like, not huge groups. Like, we're talking maybe like 500 people or so, in that range, and just marching with like anti-Biden signs and like pro-Trump and like MAGA hats, and it's like, this is Ontario, or like, this is Alberta, and the fact that ideas can transfer so easily makes me a little bit concerned about Canada's policies on abortion, and so that's something that I think about a lot, just in the sense of maintaining the lack of laws that Canada has on abortions, which honestly I think is a great lack of policy, if I can call it that, a great policy in its lacking, which basically allows anyone to be able to access it if a doctor is willing. And I think that the United States seeming to be going back on those ideas is something that concerns me. That it might come to Canada, those ideas, in
Yeah,
a
fair
stronger
enough.
way.
I can't imagine. I really can't imagine the courts going back on Roe v. Wade. I can't imagine it happening. It's possible. I
Like,
ju-
now you just have so many more conservative justices, especially now that two more have been appointed. And not that there's anything wrong inherently with appointing conservative justices, but these two were specifically chosen because of their
yeah,
feelings about the particular laws, including Roe v.
yeah,
Wade.
yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, it's very interesting. In politics, you might hear, like, if you're studying politics, you might hear the term juristocracy. Have you ever heard that?
No.
This concept that ultimately people who are elected to govern are not even governing anymore. Everything still needs to come in front of the courts in order to be determined constitutional or not. And so we end up having our nations governed by precedent.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's tricky. There's some interpretation in there, but it's such a balancing act because you need laws that respond to the issues of today. And I do believe that there's a role for precedent, of course. So I don't know. It's definitely a balancing act, and I would not want to be one of those justices in the U.S. on any side of the political spectrum
Yeah.
that is weighing in on this decision like that. That's just crazy.
Yeah, the part that is particularly salient in this moment is that there are already a number of cases that are going to be heard in front of the Supreme Court that are directly related to abortion rights, or like could have the potential for that to allow them to overturn Roe v. Wade. I think honestly, what would probably happen is that the court would just overturn it and say, okay, it's the individual states' decision, and then you would just have a large number of conservative-leaning states that would basically ban it.
Yeah.
Not that the Supreme Court would outlaw it at a federal level necessarily.
Yeah, fair enough. And I think if I don't know. I was going to say if I had to choose, I guess I would prefer that the states did it differently, because then at least you can still be an American and go to another place in America. But if you are a 17-year-old, you can't necessarily,
Well, and there's also mandatory waiting periods in certain states. They'll basically tell you that you have to come to the clinic, do an intro with the doctor. They'll basically tell you in 48 hours, if you haven't changed your mind, you can come back and receive an abortion. And that means travel time, means taking off work. It means potentially staying at a hotel overnight or a motel. And sure. A lot of people just don't have access to that, which means that they probably just won't be able to get an abortion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very tricky. I've known people in my life that, I can't even think of someone that I actively engage with right now, but I've known at least like 2 or 3 women that absolutely use abortion as birth control. They use no measures, no protective measures at all. And then
why would you even want to do that?
I don't know. But that is something that does not sit well with me.
No, like you absolutely should not do that. That's a horrible idea.
It can't even be healthy for yourself.
No, that's like getting surgery for fun.
Yeah, seriously. Well, I guess there are people who
That's beyond me though.
But yeah, like I guess I get theoretically I get the idea of the waiting period, but then I also see that becomes a systemic barrier. And there's something to be said about that. There are some systemic barriers that I think are pretty black and white in their impact. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very possible that the waiting periods is one of them. It's just like maybe if you've had one before and you know what you're in for, maybe you shouldn't have to have the waiting period. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a legislator. I'm not a policymaker, but I want us to make decisions from a place of inclusion, love, progress, and support for each other.
I'm so glad you said that. Okay, so did you know that one of your favorite people, Simon Sinek,
I was going to say,
did a podcast recently with Aloe Black?
Aloe Black? I don't know Aloe Black.
I need $1, $1 is what I need. Okay. I know you know that song. Come on, don't play with me.
I don't know the rest of the lyrics, so you know how much I love to carry forward lyrics, but I can't do it.
That's true.
I was just like, I can't.
These are things we do know.
Okay, so did you hear the podcast? Did you?
Yeah, I did. And their whole message is about passion, and passion for passion in what you do comes from passion you have for someone, and it has to be very specific. But the examples that they were giving were basically, Simon Sinek spends a lot of time with the Air Force, with the Marine Corps. He loves, talking about the military because they're very organized and effective and passionate people. And a part of what he and Aloe Black were talking about was that your passion for something has to be more specific than just something. It has to be passion for someone that'll move you forward in your day-to-day life, like either a purpose or, the example that they gave was in the Marine Corps. They do a workout for a particular fallen comrade. And so they'll say like, today is the workout for Joe Smith, and Joe Smith was this person in the Air Force, and this is, where he served. And today we're going to work out for him. And because you have this picture in your mind of this person, it gives you sort of like the passion to continue forward and push yourself harder versus if you were just thinking like, I just want to go for a workout.
Yeah, I really like that. I also love what I love about that. Oh, I was going to say that there's no normative judgment about whether or not Joe Smith is good or bad or, whatever. I guess there is a little bit of a normative judgment around the idea that working out is good, but clearly, if you're a military person,
Yeah.
that is part of your life.
Just in general.
Yeah, yeah. Well, fair enough. But yeah, I think, I think I love that concept, but I think where that goes wrong is where we start to say, um, you know, this group is going to boycott supporting that activity, because even though the activity
Yeah.
has merit, and even though there are maybe even some threads to the purpose or story or whatever that have merit, I don't like that person because they were also fill in the blank, whatever thing you hate, you know? Um, yeah, we're I think a lot of this, it's very, very possible that the US has tainted this for me, right? Because in Canada, we see a lot of US news and all of that, but I just feel like there's so much division. Everyone's just focused on division, and not necessarily on what brings us together and
Yeah.
why we need to stay together. And I I wouldn't oh, we've got a comment here. You all seem very intelligent. Glad your moms chose life. That's very sweet. Um, okay, so um, that just derailed me for a moment.
Oh, no, I peeped that comment too, and
Oh, did you
yeah,
catch it with your eye?
I
Mhm,
did. But that's I'm glad my mom was in a position to choose life.
mhm. My mom too.
There
um,
there was no way your mom was not gonna choose
this is
life.
true. This is true. Um, my mom, like, every day of the week, night, day, whatever, until the end of time. She's pretty hardcore pro-life. And I would say I'm pro-life too, but I'm pro-choice in that it's not my choice to choose for you. I don't
Mhm.
know what your circumstances are, and I also, as a person who has suffered with depression, I have to recognize that there are times where if you choose the um, commonly uh, interpreted version of pro-life, which is have your baby,
Mhm.
I might not make it to having the baby. So it's very complicated, and I won't pretend to be an expert who can say what is the right way, but I know
Mhm.
what my principles are.
Yeah.
I don't want you to do something that's convenient. I want you to do something that's aligned with your values. You
Yeah,
know.
and I sort of reject the idea that abortion, at least by most people, is treated like a drive-through. Like, I don't think that it's so transactional for the majority of people who get abortions. But to your point, there are definitely people who will do that.
Yeah.
But I think the main point for me is like there are definitively bad situations in which to raise a child. And because that is true, abortion needs to be accessible.
Mhm.
And that's the standpoint I come from.
Yeah, I think it's complicated for women. As a woman that has been pregnant twice, I've had to make decisions about my health care while I'm pregnant, and there drugs cannot be tested on pregnant women,
Mm.
for ethical reasons. So you end up with just historical data. You got to use that as the data to figure out whether or not a medication is safe for a pregnant woman.
Mm.
And I had extensive conversations with my doctors about, can I continue taking this while I'm pregnant? Um, and talk about a moral dilemma, because the safest thing to do would be to take nothing, but then you could potentially hurt your child indirectly.
Through omission of these
Well, through
medications that you
omission
take.
and from a self-care perspective,
Yeah.
what if I harm myself so much that um, whatever I'm suffering with progresses so quickly in that time, or whatever, right? It, it's not so black and white. Moms have a lot of imperfect decisions to make, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for a lot of people, it's probably no win in a lot of cases. But yeah,
And if we
I honestly can't speak to that because I'm not a mother.
Yeah, that's okay. I do think though that if we all, if we just assume that most people are coming from a good place, no one's making the decision because I'm going to be evil. I'm going to go and I'm going to get an abortion just
Yeah.
because. No one's doing that. No one's doing that. You
No.
know, Everyone's doing what they feel is right for them, and I'm definitely, um, I'm not God. I'm not a justice of the Supreme Court. I have no interest ever in my life in telling people whether they're right, wrong, good, bad. So anyway, that's my perspective. I know that's kind of fluffy, but it's just where I land, I think.
It's your choice.
Anyway. Mm-hmm. What other things are you working on? I feel like, aren't you doing some volunteer work or something?
I was, man, but the thing about that is that it was located in a physical space in Toronto, which is now locked down. So I was volunteering with Victim Services Toronto, which was an amazing experience, and I would highly recommend that anyone go and talk to them, because they're an incredible service that has a lot of free, amazing services for people. Yeah, unfortunately, the volunteering that I was doing specifically was answering support calls in what they call the pod, which is like an area that everyone goes to take their calls. And so I was taking calls as a volunteer for them for 6 months, a year, in that range. But unfortunately, because of COVID, volunteers are no longer allowed, because the pod is, obviously just a concentrated area full of people that are all talking at the same time.
For sure. Can I ask, was there one experience there that you can share with us that was really rewarding, fulfilling, maybe even joyful?
Oh, yeah. No, honestly, the vast majority is joyful. All you're doing is helping people. All you're doing is talking to people who are upset and who are stressed and who have potentially just been through something very traumatic, but overall are so grateful to be receiving help. Any kind of advice that you can give them. Honestly, like, I've had to deliver bad news to people over those calls. I've had to, I've talked to police officers that are, just trying to deliver information to get people the help that they need. And the fact that we have police in Toronto that are actively referring people to victim services because they're well aware that they don't have the skills that they need to be able to give this person all these types of supports. Victim services offers housing support, legal support, in some cases financial support where they can. Like, they really do a huge amount for Toronto just at large. And wow. So we even do, I got the chance to go to an in-person. So basically, it was called in, the client, needed people to be there because she was going in to do an interview with police. And that can be very stressful. And, they can have a very factual demeanor, which is not, super caring and considerate when you're in an emotional state, which is, that's a whole other thing. But basically, this person just, wanted someone to talk to tell her what the experience was going to be like and to support her before she went in to go do this interview with the investigative officers. And so experiences like that, where you're just there to give and there to support, those are very rewarding experiences. And there are also some very difficult experiences where you're, hearing about these deeply traumatic issues that people have. I spoke to a man who had lost his daughter 4 days prior to a fentanyl overdose. And he was just calling in to talk to anyone, get support with anyone, eventually, hopefully be able to go to a support group. And just, it's a deeply humbling experience to be able to talk to people in those moments.
Well, I'm really glad you had the opportunity to do that. And one of the things that really stands out for me is when you said, police officers who are referring folks to this service because they know that their needs are better met there. Like, yay, self-awareness,
Yeah.
Like, go team,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I know not everyone has positive experiences with the police. Sure. And even I get very intimidated by police officers. So there was this one day where I was in the pod and a police officer came to the door, and it's one of those Dutch doors that unlocks at the top, but then it swings open halfway. And so people can't actually get in, but you can talk to them. And so a police officer came to the door of the pod and said, "Who here is a volunteer?" And I'm like,
"Oh God, no one.
I'm a volunteer. I'm a volunteer. What did I do?" Yeah. And so they're like, "Come here." I walk over to the door, thinking I'm about to get chewed out by this very large, intimidating woman who is clearly not going to take any of my cutesy, charming, sarcastic bullshit that I normally get away with. And she looks at me and she hands out a Presto card and she says, "Someone lost this. We can't get in contact with the owner. Get a free ride home tonight if there's any money on it." Oh my God. Thank you. Okay. Just like hide myself and go back to my phone.
Yeah.
Or hide at this woman. It's just done something so nice for me. There was no money on it, but it was still a very nice offer for her. And she specifically asked me as a volunteer to make sure that she was giving it to someone who's not being paid to be there, which I thought was very thoughtful.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Oh man, it's so funny just the baggage we bring to stuff. And I'm not suggesting there's anything wrong with your interpretation of that situation. It's just like you don't know. There are some people who are really well-meaning, but they just don't smile. Like
there's no signal. It's just
yeah.
nothing. It's just their actions. All you have is. I can't believe this sounds like a complaint, but all you have is the content of their actions to go off of.
You have to reserve judgment till you have all the information. Isn't that inconvenient?
Who does that? No one does that.
No one does
so
that.
Unrealistic.
Yeah, but it's so true. We all make such like knee-jerk decisions.
No, I was ready to be like terrified of this woman. She wasn't fucking around.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I have to say, I remember going into an interaction with a police officer where I was completely in my own headspace. I was like, "Hey, how's it going? How's everything you do?" And OMG, that did not go very well. So it really, it's important to read a situation.
Also true.
Yes.
Yeah. Exercise caution.
Yeah, we bring our baggage and people bring their baggage, and together we need to somehow understand each other.
Try to meet them where they're at.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate burden of being the person who has a greater emotional personal awareness, self-awareness, greater emotional control or understanding. Just generally, if you've invested in your self-growth, chances are you have a bigger burden to bear when it comes to interacting with others. It's both an amazing fulfillment experience, but also a great responsibility when you're dealing with people who can't. Like, there are going to be people you interact with who can't see.
I know what you mean.
Forest from the trees,
And so it's almost like your responsibility to sort of like corral them in their emotional state.
Yeah, to do your best because you can.
Yeah.
And it's not fair, it's not equal, whatever, but you can. And the alternative is we're all hurting each other,
Yeah. We've probably talked about this before, but I'm a really big fan of Amanda Palmer, if you're familiar with her. Yeah.
Great TED Talk.
Oh, phenomenal. Have you read the book?
No.
Oh, I'll buy you a copy of the book.
There was the book.
Oh, The Art of Asking. So good. She goes into all like you would love her because I think specifically the thing you would love about her is that she goes into like all the gory details of her life. Like, she'll tell you all about miscarriages, abortion, best friend dying of cancer while she's pregnant, like husband, who lives in the UK and she's got to move with him and she goes on a run and sprains her ankle and can't get back to the house. Like, everything possibly that could go wrong in a person's life, she's just so upfront and open about. And I think you would like deeply love that about her.
I love that. Just before you continue, I'm going to quickly share another comment from Selena here about coordinating baggage. Like, we need to communicate, right?
Coordinating baggage is a wonderful, wonderful turn of phrase.
Yeah.
I love that. We're all at the luggage carousel of interaction, and we need to coordinate our baggage.
It goes back to that intersectional, interdisciplinary, like, the fact is every experience is like a unique fingerprint, and you're going to either coordinate or you're going to do a lot of this,
Yeah.
And you're going to learn one way or another. Like, this is happening somehow.
Yeah. And so the reason I bring up Amanda Palmer is because she's a big practitioner of yoga, loves yoga. She had a yogi who told her in class this mantra, which is, if you can, you must. And so meeting people where they're at, like you're saying, taking the responsibility of saying, I'm the person who knows more. I'm the person who's more in control of my emotional state. And so I'm going to help this other person to find the path through this conversation, through this moment with me. If you can, you must.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love that for a few reasons. It's a nice little sound bite. It's one of those, it's kind of like the chorus of a song. You can remember it. You can work with it, and it's good to lean on when you need a reminder of what those values are, if you agree with that. I think that, there was a specific thought I had there about, Oh, I think there's also a bit of a gift, and this is hard because it's a painful path, but I think there is a gift to being the one who can,
Hmm.
must, and does, because you also end up often in the decision making seat
Yeah.
because now you've done everything you can and you know things you didn't know before because you went through the process and you have more information than you could have possibly had at the beginning when you could have made a knee jerk reaction. And that is hard because now you again carried a greater burden of responsibility in terms of making an informed decision. It's there's something there's something freeing about making the wrong decision because you didn't know better.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
knowing better is a little bit of a it's a little bit of a bitch. It's like
Yeah, because you don't know what the options are. You can't really fly by the seat of your pants so much.
yeah, and you can forgive yourself. You can be compassionate to yourself if
Because
you
I didn't know.
yeah, I didn't know any better, right? Um, but at the same time, the more informed you are, the more you create situations for your life that don't put you in that tough situation. You end up surrounding yourself with people who can meet you at your level, or will stretch to try,
Mhm.
who value the same things you value. So it's I don't know, give and take. Everything's a little bit of a give and take. Ugh, give and take.
There you go.
Mhm. Mhm. Um, is there anything on your wish list tonight? I want to make sure, like wish list of things we cover. I want to make sure that I don't gloss over something because we just kind of got into a roll.
No, for sure. Honestly,
Hmm.
I I had my list.
Yeah.
We nailed it.
Did we?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, well, also this is like it's on a post-it thing. It's not the longest list in the
Yeah.
world, but
but
I'm
still, great minds.
yeah. No, for real. I like honestly. I feel like we could talk all
I know we
night,
could. I know we could.
and
And we'll do this again
I
if you're
love that,
yeah.
and I'm not bored.
Yay. Um so yeah, I want to touch base on like cuz yes, there are some awesome topics that I'm sure we could really go into, but I just want to touch base on a few things. How's life? How's work? How's the hustle? Like you're working remotely, right?
Yes, yeah, have been since
Yeah.
March-ish.
Okay. Okay.
Very, very lucky to be in a position where I can do that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And how is that working for you? Do you do you find yourself um do you find it's good for you or hard for you?
Honestly, I really like it.
Mhm.
My working situation before was like, or my commuting situation, I should say, not
Yeah.
the full working situation, but it was like green limousine to Toronto every day and then back. The green limousine is the GO train for anyone that doesn't know.
Go train, so you're talking a bit of a commute.
Yeah. So we're looking at like 45 minutes or an hour door to door in like rush hour over to Queen Street. And so especially like it's just like jam packed and everyone's like pushing you and trying to get to where they're going. And it's just like that's to me, that's the grind, not the work. Like the
Yeah,
commute is the grind. And so not having to do that is magical. Not having to spend that money is great. I still love the work that I'm doing. I still love the team. I'm still really connected to our team. We also have Discord. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Discord, but it's like,
a chat.
yeah, exactly. You can sort of like just be on it all day and just be chatting with your coworkers kind of thing. So it's sort of like is a simulacra of the office experience to a degree. But
Mhm.
I'm personally one of those people that would like plug in my headphones at work and just like try to mission and get things done. And I feel like I'm pretty productive when I'm by myself, but I do miss my coworkers. And so I've like when Toronto was not fully locked down before, I ended up going to like a coworker's house a couple of times and we did like a work hangout day. But now that it's locked down again,
Yeah.
probably won't be able to do that until the new year.
Mhm, mhm. I did that a couple of times too, and it was nice. I'm an extrovert, as you know, so I really do.
Mhm.
I love meeting new people. I love interacting with the people I love. The one thing I really miss is the osmosis effect of like
Yeah.
learning from each other and energetically fueling each other.
Yeah.
Um, because once someone gets excited about something, it's infectious. And then when someone's down about something and you notice, you can be there for them. So I really do love, I love that piece that you just can't get remote because most people are not going to walk, I don't even know, come onto a meeting and be like, and you won't necessarily get to notice.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. That's why I find Discord helpful, because you can sort of like hear people when they're in like the throes of their work, when someone is just like, oh shit, like I just deleted this thing, and it's like, oh my God, that sucks. And you can sort of build a connection. And you don't really get to, like you're saying, unless someone explicitly says something like on whatever your chat application is, then you won't really know what's going on.
One of my very good friends and I, when we've both had to do a lot of work, we've gotten on the phone and just left our earbuds in and just like worked in silence. And every now and then you're like, shit, oh, what happened? Everything okay? And it's silly, but I actually really love it. Like,
no, it's great. Yeah.
All the time, but I really love it.
No, for sure. Oh my God, we should do that sometime. Why don't
we should totally do that, actually.
That's a really good idea.
We've worked side by side before. Yeah, that would be really great. I have a plan this week.
I did that with a friend, or like with one of my coworkers that I consider a friend. She and I had a meeting that was scheduled at 3:30, and we just ended up staying on Zoom and just like doing other work after we were done talking about what we had scheduled the meeting to talk about. And it was basically exactly like that experience where you're just hanging out with a coworker and just chatting, and every once in a while looking up and seeing another person.
Yeah, I think we need to start treating these headsets like the water cooler. Right there, stop by and have a conversation. But a lot of it's habit, right? Form and function. So we need to get used to some new form.
Yeah.
But we're still the same creatures. So I actually have something right here that I'm going to share. So my awesome bosses celebrate Diwali, and they divided and conquered, and I got an in-person visit, and they gave me a little Diwali gift.
Oh my God.
Which was like such a nice surprise to have like your doorbell, and it wasn't FedEx or someone dropping off
Amazon.
Yeah, and I go to the door, and it was a little funny because I was doing I had some meetings, so I was dressed properly from the waist up, and I was wearing very loose, casual Roots jogging pants. Underneath as my pants, whatever.
Classic.
And so I go to the door, and I literally see my boss is like, "Hi." It didn't match at all.
Yeah.
But it was all good. It was all good. So yeah, every little thing that we can do to make each other feel connected is good.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
I love that.
And my son's class had a COVID case. And then officially they had an outbreak in his class, but an outbreak is defined apparently as 2 or more people that are connected.
Still though, in a class of like, what, 20 kids?
I don't know exactly, but yeah, something like that.
2 people is 10%.
This is true, actually. I don't know if there was anybody else in the school though. And there is a tracker, like a spreadsheet with, how many active cases. It's very, very behind. Okay. Like now I know that they have like 2 active cases listed there. But like well into us quarantining at home, it was already, it still wasn't up there.
Oh my God.
The other weird thing was the advice was that he should quarantine from us, even like he should just quarantine, like isolate from everybody. We should like bring him his meals. He gets it himself at the door, that kind of thing. I couldn't do that. So we just all quarantined.
That doesn't seem realistic.
Yeah. Like I get it. I was going to say, I always second guess everything I say. So I was going to say, I get it if you have maybe small children, you don't want to, expose to something, but I have a 2-year-old.
Yeah. I mean,
and I still was like, you know what, if you have COVID, we're all getting COVID. So
that's basically the stance that we've taken in our house. Joel is an essential, like he's not an essential, he's not a frontline worker. I don't want to give that impression, but he works in a distribution center. And so he's considered like essential services. And so he's been going to work in person in Brampton, which has a very high case count. Yeah. And so like, if he gets it, I'm basically like, where am I going to go? I work in the house. I live in the house. We share a bedroom. So
it is what it is.
Yeah. Basically at that point, like we just both quarantine is the answer.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
So
Yeah, and that's all we can do. But it was a little bit of an adventure, and there
you
was
guys all get tested? Is everyone okay? You kind of buried the lead there.
yeah,
Okay.
and we got really, really lucky. They had just like a throat swab test that day. So, and the security guard was like, "You guys are lucky. I can tell that they're using the nice test today because usually I hear screaming." And we're like, "Oh."
Do people scream? Have you had the nasal test? It just feels like going too deep in a pool. It's not that bad.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you had it?
I did. Joel and I went to go get tested. We we thought we had COVID for a hot second, but now I think we just poisoned ourselves with our humidifier. And so I shouldn't be laughing about it because some people do legitimately have COVID. But just in this case, it was sort of like we were like panicking. We thought we had it. And so we went to go get tested. And then we left our humidifier on one night and then off one night. And then we were like fine the next day. And so it's like, oh, we probably just inhaled a bunch of black mold. And now we're actually like, just because we didn't do that for one night, now we're okay. But we got tested and we tested negative. But we did the nasal test and I went first and then Joel went after me. And he was like, you made this look so painless. He didn't take to it well. He has a sensitive nose.
Yeah. Mike is not very good with like a tongue depressor or a swab or anything in the back of his throat. He's just like, no, it can't happen, So, but he did pretty well. And
Nice.
I'm so proud of my boy. He did it without freaking out.
Oh, good.
So, and Dante, sorry, my boy has a new friend. He's found like his, I don't know, his like twin a few houses down on her street.
No way.
And the two of them are just hilarious together. Like they're constantly both like fun fact, and they just dispense knowledge.
Oh my God.
Yes, I'm really glad they found each other. It's been fun to watch the two of them interact. So
are they similar in age?
No, not at all.
Oh, really?
They are 4 years apart. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Is when you're 10.
Is yours older? Is the other one older?
The other one's older.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
But you know what? That's pretty common for my guy. You know that.
Yeah, he's got like they probably feel like peers.
Adult sense of humor and stuff, and he really gets along well with adults. So it's not terribly surprising, but yeah, they're just it's so funny. So our neighbor told us, he's like, yeah, when I saw him sitting outside with somebody I didn't recognize, so I kind of just walked by to make sure that everything was okay. And he said, and I heard your son say it was the cutest thing. I heard him say, I don't want to sound weird, but have we met before? Because they had so much in common. They were just working so perfectly.
Oh my God.
It feels like such a little adult thing to say.
Yeah, because you feel like a connection to somebody.
Yeah. And then my littlest one too, she is hilarious these days. She says a lot of "Don't worry, mommy," even when it's like Marcella, you have to eat your vegetables, and she's like, "Don't worry, mommy." You're like,
oh no, you're in trouble. Yeah, she's gonna be a handful.
Yeah, she's pretty cute.
Oh my God, I love that.
I'm trying to think of anything else that's been, I don't know, entertaining. There's lots of little entertaining moments, but yeah, I think especially the two of them together, they're really like riffing off of each other in interesting ways. So it's fun to watch, and I need every little bit of entertainment I can get. So
yeah, man, I would love to be able to come see you guys, but
in time.
Yes, exactly. I have a theory that 2021 will just be the year of parties. Like it'll just be like France 2 years before the revolution, like it'll just be glamour and parties and extravagant, like Oktoberfest in the street every day once everybody is vaccinated. That's my prediction.
Yes. That's very possible. I really hope that that's the case. I could use a good party. I could use a good like summer hanging out onto a cold drink.
Yeah, just like everything that everyone postponed, it'll just be like as soon as like the majority of people are vaccinated, so like September-ish, it'll just be like, okay, unleash the postponed wedding reception, barbecue, bar mitzvah, Diwali, like whatever combination celebration that everybody didn't get to do this year. Birthday parties, whatever.
I turned 40 and I promised myself that I'm
Did you really?
Yes, I know. I promised myself I'm going to celebrate my 40th birthday in Vegas. I don't know what year I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
How old I will be when I do this, but We were rejecting the real age and we were going with 40 when
That's
it
right.
happened. So yes, it has to be a good time. I'm all pent up and
Let's
stuff,
go.
right?
I'm excited.
This is a happy place.
Yeah, we'll go and we'll hike the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, oh my gosh,
and we'll see, the mountains and the desert and oh my gosh.
There's so much to see. I saw the I can't remember what it's called right now. It's something like it's like a mountainous area in Colorado, and it's something gods, like the Valley of the Gods or something. I can't remember exactly, but incredible. Like
Mm.
everything was just this bright clay pink, and like you couldn't even imagine the crevices that just naturally formed and these huge bodies of stone. Yeah, it was really, really cool. So yeah, Grand Canyon, I can't even imagine. I'm sure it would be grand.
I'm excited for you.
Well, hopefully you'll be there with me. We shall see. We can be excited for us.
Fingers crossed.
Mm-hmm. All right. Have you had a good time?
I had a great time. This flew by, man.
Yeah, good. Yeah, well, good times should. If you're ever with me and it's dragging on, please tell me because I'm losing my touch.
That's a fair point. I definitely will. I doubt that day will come, but if it does, I will tell you.
I hope it never does.
I promise.
And if it does, I hope I'm unaware because
Well, you can't be because I'll tell you.
Yeah, there you go. So we have a small surprise tonight. Have you heard that Tim Hortons is now delivering?
What?
Yeah.
What?
So we are arranging a surprise delivery of some donuts to the house because it is going to blow my son's mind. So I'm going to join them before that delivery arrives.
Oh my God. Yes, do that. The kid's going to lose his mind.
Yeah, totally. Like this is like the best thing that's ever happened to him,
Well, just, obviously I don't want to ruin this moment for anybody, but just take the app off your phone that you ordered it with, because that kid will figure it out and you'll get deliveries of donuts every day.
Oh my gosh. The thing is, he'll order it and get it delivered, and there won't be a coffee in there for me or something.
No, it'll be a box of 40 chocolate glazed Timbits, and that'll be it.
Exactly. And he'll be like, "What do you mean these are all mine?" So
yeah,
exactly. That's totally fair. Oh, thank you. We've got one more comment here. Selena saying, "Thank you for raising my spirits tonight. Have a great night. Blessings to you as well." Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you, Alex, for
Thank
being
you for having me.
Life. I'm very blessed, and you are one of those reasons. So thank you, and thank you everyone who gave us your eyeballs and your heart and your attention tonight. It's a real honor.
And for the comments are super cool.
Comments, some great engagement, and we'll do this again.
Yes.
Next Friday, I'm gonna have my dad on.
Can I come? Oh my God.
And he was so cute when I asked him. He was like, "I don't want to ruin it," I don't want to
ruin it.
And I was like, "No, Dad, you're not going to ruin it. You're going to make it amazing." Because I want to talk about, like, he grew up in such different circumstances. He started a business with nothing. Like, he's got some really cool stories to tell.
Well, I'll definitely tune in next week for that. Oh my God.
I appreciate that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And then once I said to him, "You're not going to ruin it," he's like, "Okay, let me see the first episode first."
So he's going to watch this one?
Like, you're screening us? Are you kidding me?
Tell me this isn't the one he's watching.
I think he watched something I did for work already.
Oh, thank God. Oh my God. Sees this one that's talking about feminism and abortion rights. He's going to be like, "I can't do your podcast."
Or he'll be like, "I got to join. These people need to hear some Italian."
Yeah, maybe. He'll come on and try to convert people. Yeah.
Be like, "Okay, I'll teach you guys some things," old school Italian way. So anyway, we'll see. But yeah, I would love if you tune in and comment and give us.
I will. I'll send him a photo of my pepper plant.
Ooh, he'll love that. He'll love that. Oh, we'll have to talk about peppers then on Friday for sure. Okay.
All right.
Bye to everyone. Happy Friday. Have an awesome weekend, and see you guys again 7:00.
Buonanotte.
Friday. Buonanotte a tutti.
Bye.